Up on the housetop, reindeer paws. Out jumps good old Santa Claus. Down through the chimney with lots of toys. All for the little ones' Christmas joys. Ho, ho, ho. Oh, who wouldn't go? Ho, ho, ho.
It's always a little bit scary to see a new film by a young director whose work you admire. In the music world, there's a phenomenon known as the sophomore slump, in which a band's second album completely pales in comparison to their debut release. We've already seen a sophomore slump this year in the form of Sinister 2, a painful disappointment of a sequel to what was a pretty excellent horror film. Going to see Krampus was, for me and many others, a walk into that same territory of fear that comes from knowing a great new band's sophomore effort is about to be released. Krampus is written and directed by Michael Dougherty, who is best known as the writer and director of Trick or Treat, a smash cult hit released solely on DVD. Trick or Treat had originally been planned for theatrical release through Warner Brothers and was produced without expectation by Legendary Pictures, but received too many release pushbacks and was only shown at film festivals for a few years. Once it made its way online and in more accessible formats, Trick or Treat found a serious audience and collected quite a lot of positive critical reception. It is, in fact, one of my personal favorite Halloween movies and one of my favorite movies overall. This is why Krampus is special. Not only is it Michael Dougherty's second film as both writer and director, it's his very first national theatrical release. This is the moment for a director to step up and shine, and after finding such major support outside the mainstream box office these past few years, Michael Dougherty has a lot to gain from the success of Krampus, but just as much to lose. This is Michael's own sophomore effort, and being a personal fan of his in the theater, I would have to see firsthand whether this would be slump or success. Krampus has actually caused a lot of confusion for those interested in trailers. What exactly is this thing? Some kind of evil Santa Claus? Did somebody just happen to make this monster up and try wrecking Christmas again because their Halloween didn't last long enough? No, the Krampus is actually a real thing. A real legend, that is. Known as the Shadow of St. Nicholas, Krampus is a being who comes around during Christmas to punish bad children, and is also credited as the horned god of witches due to his pagan roots. His legend developed in the German-speaking world and is celebrated mainly in the area of Austria to this day, including parades and costume parties. Though easily seen as some kind of Christmas devil, the Krampus works in tandem with Santa Claus, dealing only with bad children while Santa rewards the good. What happens to the bad children? It depends on the person recounting the legend. Krampus may leave them cold, he might eat them, or he may throw them in some kind of container and literally drag them to hell. In this way, Krampus embodies the spirit of greed while Santa Claus is the patron of giving. Santa will give, and give some more, but for the kids who only enjoy getting, Krampus will come and turn their greed right back onto them. His legend is strong enough in certain areas of the world that Krampus has been shown in several forms since the early 1900s. Christmas cards, candy dishes, paintings. Krampus was king of public relations at Christmas before the Coca-Cola company ever put Santa Claus on a can. Many depictions show the Krampus with chains, which can be used to help capture bad children. His appearance, however, is always the same. A dark, deformed, half-man, half-goat with cloven hooves and long, curving horns. It's unknown where Krampus originally came from, but it's enough to know who he is and what he does. It's interesting to know that while the Western world has been celebrating jolly old Santa Claus, certain regions of Europe have been doing the same while inviting his dark half to the holiday party. Knowledge of the Krampus has actually spread enough over the last few years that mainstream media has been picking up the legend. This year saw a new anthology film, A Christmas Horror Story, featuring Krampus, while a few underground studios have already taken a few shots at showing the legend. Krampus has also appeared in an episode of American Dad, Scooby-Doo, and the Venture Brothers, but there hasn't been an attempt to crack the public consciousness quite like the new film by Michael Dougherty. Krampus is the tale of an American family trying to keep it together while hosting their raucous, unsavory in-laws for Christmas. The film opens in a way that any fan of theming can really appreciate, displaying a frozen-over version of the Universal Pictures title that carries over into the title for Legendary Pictures coated in snow. A very special montage in the mall follows that sets the tone for Krampus' arrival with his own take of the holiday spirit. From there, a smooth transition brings us back to the home we'll be staying in this year. Our main character in the house, Max, is attempting to hold on to his belief in Santa Claus, but personal struggles with extended family keep challenging his Christmas spirit. Ultimately, Max's anger gets the upper hand, and in a fit of hurt feelings, he accidentally summons Krampus with a misplaced wish. The rest of the film is, as expected, a household fight to survive as Krampus comes knocking, bringing his entire workshop of demonic toys with him. While characters on screen fought off nasty surprises and pleasantly wrapped packages, anyone who entered the theater just wanted to get a perfectly good gift that just looked scary on the outside. And thankfully, this year's holiday movie was delivered by Santa Claus himself because Krampus is fantastic. The first victory for the film comes from a place movies just can't be allowed to skimp out on: characters. What struck me most while watching the first half of the film was how good the entire cast was at portraying genuine people. Too often in movies or TV shows, really great dialogue comes out of characters who, while sounding really cool or intelligent, just wouldn't be like that in reality. The script for Krampus makes you believe in the people who are talking, and the way they handle their words is in such an expert manner, you don't even question how nobody is saying or hesitating in their sentences. They don't need to, because every sentence is as believable as the things you'd hear in normal conversation, spoken in that manner. I can't stress enough how strong the approach was for getting realistic people into this film. At one point, the older daughter, Beth, is speaking to her boyfriend on a webcam upstairs. They're both high school kids, of course, but here's the thing. Both of the actors look like actual high school kids. They are legitimately within the exact age range for their roles. How often have you seen a major production with 22-year-old actors playing high school juniors? Way too often, right? The casting director for Krampus must feel your pain because they carried the same kind of respect for common sense and realism to the rest of the cast chosen. I fully believed in the people from this film enough to even draw comparisons to people I know, and that's a major victory. Another major win for characterization in the film lies in the realm of what's called incidental information. When writing, a cardinal sin to commit is breaking the law of show, don't tell. This is referring to the act of letting a viewer know something or infer information from an action, something being said, or an expression that doesn't explicitly explain what it means right then and there. You have to interpret it or understand by the suggestion being made. At several points in the film, a character will say a certain line or react in a way that lets you know something about the relationship between characters or their reactions to developing situations that doesn't involve direct exposition. This seems like a common sense sort of thing, but it's so often skipped over in films that the amount of it in Krampus actually sticks out. The only points where characterization are weak are certain moments of not being more distraught, panicked, or sensible when bad or horrifying things are happening. Some of this is due to the mechanics of action-driven storytelling, but when you have the opportunity for characters to react in ways that reveal their personalities more while demonstrating their reality as people, it ought to be taken. The other point to speak of is an interesting issue. The characters in Krampus do have depth and show development during the story, which is fantastic, but it doesn't go too far in that regard, and that makes it harder to reach deeper levels of being able to relate to them. Still, these characters are in an action-driven storyline, so stopping here and there for deeper characterization at certain points may not have been the right choice for action taking place. As for that action-driven storyline, it really does flow very well. There will be people who feel a bit put off by the pacing during certain segments of the film, but overall, the setup and delivery felt excellent the whole way through. What I will say for the story is that it doesn't take too many turns outside of what you expect for story beats in something like this. A lot of it takes place in the house, there are fights with monsters, there are group meetings to establish a plan of action. A good amount of it is par for the course with not too much deviation, but when it does deviate and go outside of the house, oh man, does this movie shine. It's a well-established rule in horror that the very first monster sighting has to be good. It can't just work for what the film overall is going for, it needs to be powerful. The first meeting with Krampus was the second moment of being truly impressed watching this film. It's scary, it's thrilling, and it's just awesome to watch unfold. I've never seen a moment like it in a movie, and I want to see a whole lot more in the future now. And this brings up the all-important topic we've all been waiting for: fear. This is a horror comedy, and while we've all seen the nice bits of jokes and witty dialogue from the trailers, we know the full hits for fear beats haven't been revealed. Krampus does have a lot of good, tense moments, and the toys our monster brings with him are true horrors. And I do mean that. They are true horrors. What needs to be said for Krampus is something I can't really say for any of the other films I've reviewed. It understands horror. It really understands the idea of horror. Seeing something that's terrifying, witnessing it in the act of being terrifying, doing something disgusting or evil right in front of you, or just being there in the open in full view, looking at you, looking like an absolute nightmare. That is the real meaning of horror. Terror is the continued act of being afraid, but being horrified means coming across something the mind can't comprehend and doesn't ever want to comprehend as real, usually while committing some atrocious act. Bonus points if it's doing it to someone you love or admire, of course. Krampus understands this. It doesn't use jump scares because it knows better. A jump scare isn't horror. It's just getting scared really, really fast and then it's over. Even when Krampus hits you with a quick scare, it was building towards it with tension and it doesn't go completely out of its way to set up a jump scare. Basically, you know you're about to be hit by something because it's already started, and it won't be the same kind of loud bang and sudden sucker punch Hollywood's been abusing for too many years. Atmosphere and visuals that combine for these sort of things are where Krampus absolutely dominates. Almost every single thing in this film is created with a practical physical effect made in a workshop. There is extremely little CGI, and the efforts of taking the hard road pay off. These minions are scary and just awesome to look at. They're so interesting to see and observe even when they're mauling someone, and Krampus himself is fantastic to look at. At too many points in the film, I just wanted them to slow down in the middle of an attack so I can look at them and really get the full picture of what these things are. There are only two issues I have with the visuals, but only one of them actually matters, and even then, it's more personal opinion than anything else. Besides the monsters, the set looks great, the blizzard raging outside is the best kind of winter wonderland you'd want to see in this type of film, and when the characters get hurt or dirty, they stay that way and continue to pick up damage and debris for the rest of the movie. The atmosphere works just as well as the visual elements as previously stated. Moments of tension play very well, moments of character development are given their due time and respect, and whenever the man in the big black coat shows up, he brings every feeling you should have seeing that monster with him. Overall, Krampus succeeded in something that no other film I've reviewed so far has done as well. It was a very fun movie. I thoroughly, really enjoyed watching it, and while it's not perfect and can't stake a full claim in any of the three genres it's mixing, it completely accomplishes what it means to do. I enjoyed Krampus much more than any other movie I sat down to watch in the last few months. Krampus is just fun, period. It's a really fun time with a lot of awesome moments to just marvel at, and its brand of fear is the carnival horror house kind that's just on the verge of not being allowed to let children inside. You see, Krampus is not a major horror film, even though it gets horror so well. It could have been so much scarier and more terrifying than it was, but there's a very good reason it didn't do that, and that would be its other two components, the Christmas movie element and dark family comedy aspect. Michael Dougherty had a massive challenge in balancing all three of these connecting pieces which, normally, would never go together, and he succeeded in running an equal measure across all three. But because of that, none of those three have nearly enough power to make this movie tower above others in that specific genre from that field. Krampus cannot be a major horror movie because power had to be split between the Christmas movie section and the dark comedy piece. It can't be a huge Christmas movie because it has a giant horror element that marks it. And it can't be a full dark comedy because so much time is needed to take care of all the other components while still making a strong film with characters you like. So, instead of smashing all competitors in one single genre, Krampus actually makes its very own field and stands in it like a colossal tower. Because of this, I know a lot of hardcore horror fans and Christmas movie lovers aren't going to want to come inside. But so many viewers are going to thoroughly enjoy this for the truly unique experience it is. And because, you know, it's just a damn good film and a really fun time. The best comparison I can give is that, no offense to Gil Kenan, I feel like Michael Dougherty should actually be the one who directs the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, because that's how this brand of horror made me feel. It's creepy, it's inappropriate, and yeah, it's kind of silly, but it's still a lot of fun, and despite its wide appeal, it's not catering to kids or pulling any punches. My criteria for rating films has changed after realizing just how much more legroom I actually needed in these reviews. To better help viewers understand if this is a film for them and where a film shines or sinks, I pulled together 5 categories that compose a final judgment score, with a bonus of the vision score. Every film has a very specific idea they're going for, a feeling and a concept, something that is uniquely theirs. The vision score rates a film on how well they did in making that vision happen for what they were specifically doing. And before we begin, I'd just like to nod my head to my good friend Riser from the Webcomic Relief here on YouTube. He uses similar scoring criteria for his reviews of major webcomics, and it works very, very well. If you're into the webcomic scene, definitely go check him out. You will not regret it. Character in Krampus receives a 7 out of 10. These characters feel like legitimate people, and it's good to see that happen for a full cast in a major film. I enjoyed being with these characters. They have some depth, they experience some development, and the actors provide incidental information that furthers the experience. However, it could have gone deeper and provided better ground for really relating to these people, making moments of monster attacks and emotional suffering that much more impactful for the audience. Story gets a 6 out of 10. It's standard fare for where we're taken, but detours really make it all more interesting, and I enjoy stepping outside the house into Krampus's blizzard. Fear receives a 7 out of 10. Moments of tension are right where they need to be, and Krampus's minions are terrifying creatures. This movie understands horror. However, even with the challenge of balancing all 3 levels this film had to carry, there could have been a lot more punch and power in the horror movie aspect. If it had raised both fear and character with, say, a bit more story power thrown in, it might have done better. Still, this is a really great piece for horror fans with outrageous monsters. Style gets a very solid 9 out of 10. Atmosphere and visuals are so good, it's worth watching just to marvel at Krampus, his creatures, the blizzard, and how the set develops, changes, and deteriorates through the action. I loved how right the atmosphere felt at every given moment, and the music and sound effects were so good. Still, a couple of visual bits and maybe one moment of atmosphere that should have been played a bit straighter keep this from being a perfect score. Enjoyment is definitely an 8 out of 10. I never buy DVDs. I don't ever see a need to do so unless I feel a film is perfect to learn from, or I truly need to own the film as a developing creator. But Krampus? I am going to buy the DVD for Krampus. I made that decision walking out of the theater. Out of all the films I've reviewed so far, albeit in the short time I've been doing this on my channel, Krampus takes home the prize for best time at the movies. I had so much fun watching this film and really want my very own Krampus ornament. The inability to pick up a few more horror and character points does keep this film from the top slot, but Michael Dougherty has succeeded again. Knowing that he'll get to really let loose on the horror element soon with the sequel to Trick or Treat makes this experience even better. And altogether, the points come down to an average of 7.5 out of 10. I wish I could go back and revise my scores for films like The Visit and Sinister 2 under this criteria, because if this score was broken down to meet the format of 5 points total I had been going with, I know it would look like Krampus and The Visit are on equal ground, and that's just not the case. Krampus is the best film I've reviewed so far. Not a perfect film, but extremely enjoyable. The Vision score receives an 8 out of 10. So close to absolutely nailing the concept being presented in full at its highest quality. But again, those horror and character levels keep it from perfection. I had a great time watching Krampus. Not everyone is going to have as high an opinion of the film as I am, and I know that. But then again, something like Krampus is a very unique film with a very unique taste. If you really enjoy Trick or Treat by Michael Dougherty, you're going to love this. If you watched The Nightmare Before Christmas recently and rediscovered love for it, you'll probably love Krampus. If you were unsure about seeing this film, I hope I've helped in your decision, and if you do go, I sincerely hope you enjoy it as much or even more than I did. Thank you for viewing, and remember to be good boys and girls this holiday season. You've got a lot more than Santa Claus to worry about now.